Hello and welcome to the East Lampeter Township Public Meeting. All participants are now informed that this meeting is being recorded. This meeting is also being offered virtually utilizing Zoom, which is a cloud-based platform for remote video and audio conferencing. The Zoom application is free to the public. The general public is therefore able to join the meeting by connection through the internet or by calling in by phone. The public is also able to observe the meeting on the township's YouTube channel. Please continue to check the Township website calendar for any updates related to these public meetings. Agendas for these public meetings will also be available on the Township's website. Please be reminded that this meeting is being video and audio recorded and will be posted to the Township's YouTube channel for viewing. The meeting will now proceed with the chairman calling the meeting to order and identifying all other members present in the meeting room and those joining the meeting via Zoom. The chairman will then confirm those members joining by Zoom can be heard.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the Lampeter Township Emergency Services Committee to order this date and time. If we could all first please rise and pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to start, and if you can just indicate by yes or I or something. Mike Horton. Here. Susan Yoder. Paul Fisher. Don Boyer. James Martin's here. Dave King. Here. Jason Byler. Eric Bergstrom is not here. Steve Gribble. Melanie McHenry. Yeah. Mike Primer. Here. Chad Engler. Here. Who have I missed? Anyone? Claire, sorry. Claire's here. Yep. All righty. Welcome, everyone, to our meeting. At this time, I would like to request approval of minutes of our March 17th regular minutes. Are there any additions, changes, or corrections that need to be done to our minutes from the last meeting? Not, entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to accept.
Second?
I'll second.
Dave? Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so moved. All right, then we'll move right into old business. And I'd like to take it a little bit out of order this time because we do have a presentation tonight from Whitmer. So we'll do hand in hand, and then Lafayette. Bronx, if you have anything, we'll do you as well. And then we'll move to Whitmer and allow Whitmer to do their presentation. Okay. So Paul?
I have no update on.
Okay. Dave?
Another truck committee for Lafayette. The truck committee has been formed, but they have not yet met.
Okay. Steve? Nothing. Okay. All right. We have a presentation then by Whitmer. And if you can please come up to the microphone, and we will review your presentation.
All right, my name's Chris. I'm Assistant Chief at Whitmer Fire Company. For those of you that weren't here when we made the decision in 2013, the tanker was actually due to be replaced in 2014. 2013, we made the decision to push it out 5 years. because it was still running strong. We pushed it out to 2019. 2018, it was still running strong, so we pushed it out again to 2024. Obviously, it didn't make it without major problems to 2024. So we formed the truck committee and to see which way we want to go. And we put a presentation together. I'll try to run through it quickly, and then at the end, we'll entertain questions. So the Tanker 62 committee was Chief Engineer Lloyd Miller, Fire Chief Greg Sherman, Deputy Fire Chief Michael Kramer, Assistant Fire Chief Chris Kaufman, and Firefighter Ruben S. Lapp. Tanker 62 facts. Purchased new by Whitmer Fire Company in 1994 for $165,000. The chassis was Peterbilt commercial, body New Lexington Fire Equipment Company, which is no longer in service. They are no longer in existence. 28 years of service in 2022. Chassis has 39,732 miles on it, has significant pump problem, has significant electrical wiring problems. Engine, transmission, tires, other major components are in good condition. The decision we needed to make: do we refurbish the existing tanker? Do we purchase a brand new tanker? Do we retire the existing tanker and downsize? Tanker 62 operations. For the past 5 years, 2017 through 2021, Tanker 62 has run an average of 28 calls per year. Responds first due to mutual aid tanker calls both in and out of East Lampeter Township. Responds second due on Whitmer Fire Company non-structure fires. Responds third due on Whitmer Fire Company structure fires. Designed to function as a shuttle tanker, nurse tanker, or a porta-tank nurse tanker. There are currently 2 tankers and 1 engine tanker in the township. They carry a combined 9,500 gallons of water. Tanker 41, which is Bird in Hand, carries 4,000 gallons, which is a straight tanker. Tanker 62 carries 3,000 gallons, which is considered a straight tanker. Engine 62-2 carries 2,500 gallons, and it's considered an engine tanker. Tanker 62 is the only tanker that has a porta tank in East Lampeter Township. Engine 62-2, which is an engine tanker, operates more than 75% of the time in East Lampeter Township as an engine versus a tanker. Is there a need for Tanker 62? The 3,000 gallons of additional water arriving early on a fire scene can be the difference in stopping a working fire. I'll take that a step further. It could be the difference in saving a life. Tanker 62 is more maneuverable than larger engine tankers. A sizable portion of East Lampeter Township still does not have fire hydrants. East Lampeter Township has received the lower ISO rating due to the existing number of tankers and water capacity potentially saves residents on homeowners insurance premiums. East Lampeter Township has large manufacturing facilities and other buildings with heavy fire loads. East Lampeter Township has large buildings that are a long distance from municipal or static water sources. Tanker 62 is not utilized as often as it was during the first 15, 20 years in service. Tanker 62 current capabilities: 3,000 gallon water tank, 3,500 gallon porta tank, 3 10-inch square dump valves, 1,750 gallons per minute pump, 3 6-inch suction pump intakes, 3 4-inch large diameter discharges, 2 2.5-inch discharges. Now we go into new versus refurbishment. The new tanker would have similar capabilities to the existing tanker. The cost of a new tanker is 295% over the cost of refurbishment. Existing engine and chassis have significant life remaining, designed for 1 million miles. Full preventative maintenance is performed annually by certified mechanics. Refurbishment will not bring tanker 62 in compliance with NFPA 1901-1991 edition. New tanker estimated delivery time up to 24 months. Refurbishment estimated project time up to 3 months. Major repairs completed in the past 6 years. Replace rear brakes, replace front springs, replace Cosmo battery charger, replace rear walking beams and rear springs, and replace main warning light bar with LED light bar. Refurbishment, what will be done? Pressure wash undercarriage and treat corrosion. New 1,750 gallon per minute Darley pump. New pump panel and gauges. All new piping and fittings. 3 new Trident air primers. New intake and discharge valves. All electrically operated discharge valves. 2 new dump valve air actuators on the side dumps. 3 new dump valve switches in cab. All new wiring. Replace remaining existing warning lights with LEDs except the 2 red rotating lights on the front fenders. Replace all OEM lights with LEDs. Replace existing scene lights with LED scene lights. 4 new water tank level displays. Add backup camera. Add compartment lighting. Touch up paint and gold leaf as needed, and Chevron safety striping on the rear. Project cost analysis. New tanker, $582,000. 60% for East Lampeter Township would be $349,200. 40% for Whitmer Fire Company would be $232,800. Refurbishment, $197,000, includes 10% contingency. East Lampeter Township 60% would be $118,200. Whitmer Fire Company 40% would be $78,800. Effect on East Lampeter outlay for tanker 62 if refurbishment option is selected. If East Lampeter Township pays 60%, East Lampeter Township will save $231,000. If East Lampeter Township pays 100%, East Lampeter Township will save $152,200. Whitmer Fire Company Tanker 62 recommendation. At the May 9th, 2022 Whitmer Fire Company General Meeting, the membership voted unanimously to recommend to the East Lampeter Emergency Service Committee the following. Refurbish the existing Tanker 62 at a max cost of $197,000. Glick Fire Equipment will perform the refurbishment. Request that the East Lampeter Township Emergency Services Committee recommend to the East Lampeter Township Board of Supervisors that 100% of the refurbishment costs be covered by the East Lampeter Township apparatus fund due to the savings generated over purchasing a completely new tanker. Results. Whitmer Fire Company and East Lampeter Township will have a refurbished tanker with capabilities like a newly built tanker. Total savings to the East Lampeter Township community, $385,000. Estimated useful life post refurbishment, 10+ years. Refurbishment project should reduce future ongoing tanker maintenance costs. And now we're in questions and answers.
Before we have question and answers, I'd like to ask a question or two, and then I'll open it up. Okay. With regard to NFPA compliance, why will the tanker not be in compliance?
There's some things that are grandfathered in. Two major things that we talked about was a 4-inch on the driver's side, a 4-inch discharge. We decided to keep that since it's grandfathered in for flexibility at fire scenes. That way we have the option of setting up porta tanks, nursing, doesn't matter, on either side of the road. It doesn't matter which side we pull it That's why we opted to go with that. The other one is anti-lock brakes, which that's also grandfathered in. That would be very, very costly to get that done.
So what are the consequences to the township if we don't have an NFPA approved tanker?
So NFPA is a recommendation. It is not law. They only recommend.
So that's like a standard. For fire companies
It's
to follow.
standards that fire companies follow, yes.
All right, very good. All right, then I have, I'll open it up to questions, but before we take a vote on anything, one of the issues that we talked about at the last meeting was how do we integrate a retrofit or refurbishing fit into our current township approved program. And I have a suggestion that I think we need to answer unless the supervisors are willing to accept a recommendation like might come from this that would look at down the road processes in this replacement of equipment, because I don't think this is going to be the last time we hear refurbishment of equipment. And I think to be fair to the township and the other fire companies, we need to establish a standard that's integrated into the current plan and program. So I have a suggestion here as a starting point to work on that before we address approval of this, if that's okay. So at this time, I'll be quiet and I'll open it up to other questions.
Well, I have one related to that. If I could ask you, Ralph or Tara, is, how many large vehicles of that nature, when we say apparatus, let's talk vehicles, right? How many have we replaced in this arrangement? Is this many years that we've had this in place?
We provided the
Does that go all the way
apparatus
back?
replacement information.
Okay,
So the first vehicle that was done was in 2006, was the ladder truck at
Okay.
Lafayette.
okay.
So there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 so far.
So that's the life of this arrangement that we've had, that back to 2006.
Correct.
And we've never had a refurbishment offer in that, we've always had a new vehicle that we replaced.
There was one occasion where a used piece of apparatus was purchased rather than a new piece of apparatus.
So this,
So that's the closest
this is
comparison.
a unique situation, and this is the first time really this has come up.
First time it's been proposed.
Okay. Good. And then related to that, when I saw the 30, it's about 40,000 miles on basically the powertrain, like, all the chassis implements, and then it said it's designed to go 1 million miles.
So these chassis on commercial trucks, it's nothing new. Commercial truck will go without having an engine rebuilt or the transmission.
And really, everything being refurbished is really water pump components, it sounds like. I mean, you have a few.
Water
other things
pump,
that-
wiring, lighting, and paint.
Okay, I'll open it up to other questions. Dave, go ahead.
With the scenario of 100% payment for a refurbishment. How many more years' life are you expecting to get out of this unit?
A minimum 10. We're thinking it could easily reach 15 to 20.
Okay, so 10 to 15 more years out of this piece. Second question is that if the township goes all in at 100% funding in 10 to 15 years, when we've reached the life of that unit, are you prepared to return 100% of the sale funds to the township? Whitmer does not take any proceeds from the sale.
That was not discussed.
Okay.
Okay, Dave?
I'll have additional later. Thanks.
Dave, has that been done before? Again, I'll go back to my history of these are the newer vehicles over the years that we purchased. What has happened to the older vehicle?
Typically, it's in the plan in this document that the portion that the township contributes, I think it starts in year 2009 or 2011. I'd have to look. But the portion that the township contributes, once the apparatus is sold, is returned to the township. So if we pay 500,000 and we sell it for 100,000, and there's different breakdowns, 60% that say if
Yeah.
the township contributed 60% of the proceeds of the sale go back to the township apparatus funds.
So, but that's been the standard procedure. it sounds like.
It's the understanding under the program, we haven't actually gotten to a point where we've replaced one of the vehicles that was purchased. So until we get to 2026, would be the first one where we'd be considering replacing one of the vehicles that the township participated in under this plan.
Claire, do you have any questions? Mike? Steve?
I think the big thing right now is everyone has to realize this tanker was purchased before we had our policy written up. So it's a little unique that way. I'll put it this way. We refurbed a unit and we thought we did right by that. We spent money and didn't keep it long enough. So when I know when Dave says, 10 years, 12 years, whatever it is, I mean, the longer you keep it, the better off you're going to be, because when you figure out that what you paid for it originally and the number of years you have in it versus, okay, now we're going to add this, you hope it lasts, that much plus. If they would decide, and I'll play devil's advocate, if you would decide that, okay, we're going to get rid of it, we're going to downsize, you have a pump that doesn't work right, correct?
Right now, yes.
And if you sell something, you should have a pump that works properly and will pass a pump test, and it won't do that. So right now, you've got a unit that can be fixed properly, but you can't sell it the way it is because you'll get nothing for it. So, I just hope we can keep it in service and, outlast my lifetime in this township. But, to say 10 years, I hope you can get 15, 20 years out of it. And it's used. It's so tough to tell, what it's going to be like, where we have more water down the road, things like that. But right now we don't. And I don't really see it coming, at least down our way. So it is one that we do rely on. But when you spend this much, I definitely hope we can get, that I'll go for the 20-year thing, no problem, So.
No? Paul?
Yeah, just a couple questions. I guess one question would be for the township, since it's on the schedule for 2024, was that going to create a problem guess is the funding there to do this? I don't know if that's something you'll address then, I guess, based on the recommendation or whatever, but I guess I'm just asking whether that's even feasible from the township perspective.
Well, it wasn't clear to me in the proposal or anything that's been said so far as to when this was going to happen. So in 2022, there's nothing budgeted for apparatus. So anything that's going to be spent in 2022 would be an addition or an excess of anything that was budgeted for apparatus. So the board would have to amend the budget in order to accomplish that. There are funds in the apparatus fund that, based upon planning, are, for future purchases, in particular for Whitmer in 2024.
I guess the other couple other questions I had, one was where, I guess, more for the ESC, where do we foresee this piece going back on the replacement schedule? If, let's say, it were done in 2022 or 2023 next year, are you anticipating that it would then roll back on 20 years out, 10 years out? Like, how does that work? Because that's going to affect the funding that's already been planned.
I don't want to speak too quick, but I don't think it would go on the replacement plan. What we're envisioning is once the life of this tanker is over, we would not replace it.
So let me understand that. You say you will not consider replacing the tanker with another tanker if this lifespan is, when this lifespan of this tanker is done.
That's what we're thinking right now, but that's all dependent on how many more hydrants we have. We'd have to decide at that point what the percentage is of non-hydrant areas. I don't know what the township has in mind in the next 10, 20 years as far as more public water. But that's what we've discussed, that it would not be replaced. We would downsize at that point.
Yeah, I guess that kind of answers the last question I had then was, I guess my biggest concern would be what would happen if it were refurb in 5 years from now, 7 years from now, something else, major, like this truck just isn't no longer sufficient to meet the needs. Again, how does that affect the apparatus funding? That would be my concern. Let's say 5, 7 with the refurb like this, 5 or 7 or 8 years down the road. There were other additional problems with it, and the car company felt like this really needs to be replaced. Again, does that mean the township's on the hook for 60% of that replacement then? But it sounds like you're saying there's a pretty good possibility at that point that we would replace it. Kind of makes that a moot point.
Yeah. And don't tape, that's not in stone. There's a lot of factors that go into that. But, having said that, what if any of the apparatus in East St. Peter Township has a major problem? That's not in the plan.
That's true, although with the new piece, you typically have a bit of warranty to cover a lot of the.
Yeah, for 10 years. And this pump is going to have a 10-year warranty too. We had the frame rails checked out by Glick. They feel very confident. At this point, there's nothing wrong with the transmission, nothing wrong with the engine, and they're made to put hundreds of thousands of miles. So the likelihood of that happening are very small.
That's any question. The questions I had, I guess the other thing would be how do we decide? And they're recommending the township. Or the ESC, 100%.
Well, yeah, so that's part of the continued discussion that I want to have here before we do that.
Can I answer Hutch's question
Sure, you may,
on
sure.
when it would be done? ASAP. It's not fully functional right now.
What I was going to ask that question, you obviously coordinated with Glix, so it looks like they're ready to go to work if
We would have to get the start date once we have all the approvals through, but yes, they are aware that this is probably coming and they're ready.
okay. And they estimate 3 months.
3 months. It would be down 3 months.
Are there any other warranties that would be associated with the refurb other than the pump?
I'm sure there's warranties on the lights, like the LED
Yeah.
lighting.
I think you were upgrading a generator, is that right?
No, there is no generator.
Or what did I? There's something else on here. Okay, all right. Okay,
I highly doubt if there's a warranty on wiring.
yeah, I doubt it too. All right. Okay, all right. Because I question the,
Jim, is all the committee done with their
I
questions?
think they are, I'm sorry, Ed.
I
Did you
just had
I'm sorry.
a couple things that stood out, and you had just asked about the 3 months versus 24 months. I think to me, that's important to as one angle to take on this, knowing that this tanker is like completely out of commission. It's basically just sitting in the garage. It's the alternative to purchasing a new one is 22 years. That's a long way down the road.
And
Um,
that's actually a fact. That is White Horse Power Company. They ordered theirs in January. They spent 582,000. And they will take delivery of it January of 2024. Did I say that right? They ordered in 2022. Yeah. 2024.
That's right.
They're Pierce is 2 years out.
And I mean, just with everything else in the, I would be surprised if it holds even true to that. Too. And the other thing, I know someone had mentioned, I think you mentioned the township had purchased a used piece of equipment. And my understanding would be that that is essentially a refurbished piece, correct? Because I mean, someone's trading a piece of
Not
apparatus.
necessarily.
No,
No, it's used, not refurbished.
I thought they went over them all and brought
Correct,
them
Dave?
up to.
Yours was used. You didn't buy it refurbed?
That is correct. Purchase used. We spent about 30,000 to bring it up to our standards.
That's why I was wondering what the difference was between actual used or refurbs. And then someone had mentioned about trading it in. I mean, it's not functional, so it's not worth anything really or worth as much. So I think that that needs to take into consideration too as well. Functional condition.
Tara, do you have anything to?
I do have a number of questions,
Go ahead.
if that's all right.
Sure.
I would just say to that last point that it's worth $197,000 that you don't spend if you don't need the piece.
Yeah, if they choose not to replace it.
So the questions I had is 28 calls per year over the last 5 years. What percentage of the fire company's calls does that represent?
I think 15. Yeah, it's we went around and around and around with that one. But then you think about the Stauffer lumber fire. Cold water all day. You think about the Weaver Nut fire. I'm thinking about big fires.
Neither
in the
one of those
history.
in East Lampeter Township.
Hutch, I don't think we can go down that road because we have lots of
It's just
outside
a fact.
municipalities coming in and helping us when we have fun.
Yeah, it's just a fact.
Yeah. I personally don't think we should look at it that way because of that. You know,
So what would change about those 28 calls per year if you didn't have this piece?
I mean, we do. That's hard to answer. Obviously, we wouldn't run those 28 calls.
Well, you'd still be called for service, theoretically, I
No.
guess.
Not necessarily. Engine 2 would probably go much more. Engine 2 would get a lot more mileage. The straight tanker runs more miles as far as hauling water than what engine 2 does. So it
I'm
would
just trying-
definitely put more of a workload on engine 2.
Okay. Of those 28 calls, how many are in East Lampeter Township?
I'd say about half. Huh?
Half. You mentioned in your presentation that, getting water to the scene quickly is very important when you're attacking. This piece is third due on structure fires. Doesn't seem to make sense to me. Why is that?
Because our engines need to be there first. Engines need to attack the part. And then the tanker comes in and supports them with water. That's why it's third.
The use of 62 is decreased in recent years. Why is that?
Tanker 62?
Yeah.
There's a whole host of reasons. One large reason is the farmers actually operate different than they did. They bag or wrap most of their hay. They don't stack it in their barns as much. So the dairy barns don't have the fire load that they used to. And by the time the fire companies arrive, anymore the barns down on the ground, therefore they don't ask for as many tankers as they used to. I think that's a large contributing factor to less calls. And good fire prevention.
You asked the question in your presentation about, do we need this tanker? I didn't really see a direct answer to that question. What are the main reasons?
I don't think that question was asked of the ESC yet. It is on the plan to be replaced, but we felt it's important that the ESC would say, yes, we do need 3 tankers in East Lampeter, or we need 2, or,
I guess I'm asking why.
why?
Yeah, you said in your presentation, is there a
We
need
feel
for
it's
tanker
necessary to
62?
have 9,500 gallons of water sitting in stations ready to roll at any given time. The
Well, I
one
guess
factor,
to-
the one factor that we brought in is it's the only porta tank in East Lampeter Township. And to us, that's big. Because when you have a major fire, you can, you want to set up a porta tank. Now, Bert, with me on that.
We have one too.
Yeah. Well, I guess to that point, though, your question, how will if you would not have this tanker, how will that affect the insurance of our citizens?
The
Does that-
ISO rating,
Does that lower our rating by lowering the amount of water? What is the amount of water that is needed in a station in total? Is that even in existence? I mean, you're implying that here.
The ISO goes by gallons per minute that you can pump
that you can pump.
for a
right?
certain amount of time. East Lampeter Township actually worked really, really hard. I was actually a part of tanker shuttles where ISO was there, and we proved to them that we could move water with tankers to the point that we got it from in non-hydrant areas, we got it from a 9 to a 6. So that's huge.
So it's not amount of water that's sitting in a tanker, it's the amount of water that you can move that affects that rating.
But the amount you have sitting there could affect.
I understand, but in reality, not
what you
having
can
that
move,
tanker
correct.
is not going, it's being.
Well,
able to pump it.
It's a whole host of different metrics that they use.
Right,
I
but
don't
this
know
is-
if they use sitting water or not.
okay.
And I don't know when they'll next do their rating process for East Lampeter. So
think
until
that
that,
I think they went.
so scheduled for a new piece in 2024. If that was going to be the case, does Whitmer have the 40% that would be required under the program
For a new one?
for a new one?
Do we have it?
2024.
I mean, we could finance it. Yes. We don't have it in the bank. Not the 40% for a new one.
So Whitmer would have savings from the refurbishment as well compared to the program.
Correct.
What will you be doing with those savings?
Let's use it for the next one.
Yeah, this was sort of asked earlier, but I guess I didn't really hear. Well, I guess the answer was, we're not going to put this piece back on the program after it's refurbished. So each fire company right now has 2 pieces on the program. And that was part of the understanding from the beginning, that each company would have 2 pieces on the program. So if this one goes away in 20 years, 15, 10, whatever that number is, are you only going to have 1 piece on the program, or did I say 2?
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
It's 3.
You'll have 1 less. So is Whitmer going to stay at 1 less than everybody else, or is there going to be a different piece added to the program?
I'm sure if we would downsize, there would be another piece added.
Okay, do we have any idea what that would be?
Well, we bought Squad 1 with our, so
I'm aware.
you know, it's a little hard to tell right now. I feel like I'm speaking too far ahead, because I actually think some of this should come out of the ESC. I feel like the ESC needs to decide if we have enough of hydrants and public water in East Lampeter Township to, do we want to keep 3 tankers? Do we want to downsize to 2? I think part of that decision needs to come from ESC and not only from Whitmer.
Well, to your
Sounds
question, Ralph, what's the main reason for the tanker is it's absolutely tied to the lack of or increase of hydrogen.
Yeah,
And
public
water-
water and
water
static
avail-
water and static water.
And what
areas, yeah.
percentage of area do we have that we know?
It's pretty big.
It seems-
It's probably
I've
around.
heard that.
Probably around 60% of East Lampeter Township still doesn't have hydrants or public water.
Land area.
Land, of course.
Yeah.
Depends.
Fire risk, I think is a different percentage, but. Must have answered that. The only other thing I was going to say is not really a question, but just by way of comparison of what would be paid out for a new piece versus the proposal to pay out. And Dave asked if Whitmer was prepared to have the township hold 100% of the trade or sale value in the future. In relative terms, what they're asking the township to pay out compared to the cost of a new one's be about 20%. So that's where I was going with that question. It was, you know, is it 100%? Is it 60% if the township pays 60, or is it some relative number like 20%? But I think those are all the questions I had. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a point of discussion.
Okay, good.
So I think this plan was a good plan when it first started. As the plan moved forward, we've changed apparatus percentages. We've dropped apparatus, we've added apparatus. I think from a prior meeting recently, we said in 2016, when the funds were available to replace tanker 62, it was decided not to do it. It was a benefit to the fire company. It was a benefit to the township for the period of 2016. What that did, correct me if I'm wrong, Hutch, is it showed a surplus in the budget. As that budget shows a surplus moving forward, I'm sure in the fire company's mind that that money would stay in the apparatus fund. I'm thinking it moves back into the township because it's an overage out of that line item. So where I'm going with this is I think this apparatus plan was good for the time period, but going forward, it seems to be getting more messy. We're not being real good stewards. It takes a lot of management to recoup the costs to different percentages, what the fire companies are paying out, what the township's paying out. I think at this time, it's a good move to, it's just my thought, to provide 100% funding for this apparatus. In 10 years from now, it might not be a good move. I know that we haven't stuck to the plan. NFPA recommends 20-year apparatus replacement. What we're doing here is we've extended the apparatus and now we're going to upgrade it versus purchasing a used or buying a new. Is it really a savings? I guess where I'm at going forward, and I'm not going to lie, I'm an advocate for getting rid of a lot of this spaghetti, I'll call it, and having the township pay 100% for all apparatus. We stick to the plan, 20-year replacement. And at the end of it, we don't have to figure out percentages and the township gets 100% of the sale value back. That's my point of discussion. Because I would like to see this committee move towards 100% funding for apparatus. Maybe not this year, but in 5 years. I think we need a plan to do something like that.
Well, that's part of what I'm wondering here with what I passed out. Do we want to modify the plan? If we're going to stick with the plan, then we need to modify it so that it fits the current current situation plus projections that we might have. And so if we use this as the benchmark going forward, then we're going to have to go through and redo our plan and get the township supervisors to approve it. Because whatever we do, it's got to be approved by the township supervisors. They're the ones that will have the final say on any dollars that do or don't get spent. So at this point, do we modify the plan to allow this to go forward as requested, or
Jim,
do we see this as a,
if I could, to further the discussion point that's been raised, I would suggest that, going to 100% raises other questions. Is the township now the owner of that vehicle? Is the vehicle now have to be purchased under township rules with bidding or co-stars or other standardized process? Should the vehicles all be standardized in a way that, removes some of the options that have been purchased over the years? Not saying right, wrong, or otherwise. I'm just saying it raises a whole bunch of other questions.
issues? That's right.
Even do the truck say Lawrenceburg and whatever? By the way, or they all got to say.
Personally, I don't care if it has a blue and white license plate on it. I don't think it's a big deal if it says Ronks, Lafayette, or Whitmer on it. That's a small dollar value, and I'm sure the fire companies will pay to put that part on there. But good question. I think that question is probably for another time, though. I think the question that we're faced with today is how to move forward with this one item.
I agree with that, because that 100% funding thing is going to be a lengthy discussion with a lot of other.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would be in favor of acting on doing what we have to do with you with this particular situation. Maybe whenever it's time to review the apparatus plan, or whenever this committee decides to put their effort to that, I think we have other more precedents between now and then. Some of them.
Okay, now we've had any other discussion, any other comments?
Jim, the only thing I have is, if we have to look at this, that we've got to say this thing stays in the service 20 years. I mean, you can't go and spend this much money and say, well, in for example, 5, 6, 7 years and say, well, we don't need it anymore, or we don't have manpower for it, or things like that. At one time, Chris said maybe 10 years. This goes back to what I brought up originally when we refurbed the piece. It was a bad move, but it was still in service, so it was a functional piece. But I truly believe it's got to we have to keep this thing in service 20 years, or we say, no, let's squash it and move on. Because if you say, okay, we go 100% on a refurb, what is the limit on what you're going to put into a piece? In other words, is it worth this? And then you throw this much money into it. I mean, sometimes the sky's the limit. And, you have to look at that too. So.
Well, if we stick with the plan that, and we assume that this is going to keep the tanker in service 10 plus years, 20 years, then do we say that we would recommend a 60-40 rather than 100%? Do we say it's 70-30? Do we say it's, what is that percentage other than 100% if we if we don't want township to pay the 100%? What is it? Because in my mind, down the road, when we start talking about how we're going to readjust our plan, this is going to be the benchmark that we all look to. And the reality is the township going to run our business, or are the fire companies going to run their own business?
Well, hold that thought. I mean, this is a partnership, in my opinion.
Okay. But who runs your fire company?
Well, right now we have a board of directors.
Thank you. And I think that's the way all four of the fire companies are run, right?
Correct?
So, I mean, I'm just, I'm searching for a answer to how are you going to fund this?
I have one more question.
All right.
Chris Kaufman, does your tanker currently say East Lampeter Township on it?
And I think everybody has that on their apparatus.
I'm not
Is
sure
that
about
right?
that.
Most of us do. You don't. Okay.
That's because
Just to follow up on what Steve said, for what it's worth, our position, we met last evening, we had gotten an email, I think the day before, I asked our three chiefs to meet, to make sure that I was representing our station position on it and our president. And we talked about it, and we had some of these same questions, and I guess just putting it out there, our position is basically, we would definitely support the refurbishment, but we would like to see remain with the 60-40 split. That's what the deal was originally, and we would like to see it be on that 20-year business. We're open to discussion and, you know, obviously voting a different way, but I just want to, that's the official position of our company after the,
Okay.
again, we only had whatever 24 hours to discuss it, or 48 hours to discuss the proposal, but that's what we came back. We felt like that was the fairest to the township, taxpayers, and the Whitmer. If we think it's reasonable, it's 60-40, just like they're going to save money, township saves money, and hopefully it lasts another 20 years. If it doesn't, and that's where the problems start. But that's why we feel like we should go back on this. That's just putting that out there. That's what.
Okay. Ronks, have you had any discussion with your fire company? No. And Lafayette, have you had any discussion with your?
Everyone knows that the tankers are for replacement. And what the intentions are.
But no one has addressed this.
No, we haven't had a special meeting or
You haven't had
we have not
anything
brought
to
it up with
address.
our board of
Yeah.
directors. No,
Yeah.
nothing like that.
Let me understand, the tanker is currently out of service? It is not out of service.
To haul water and dump. The pump operates somewhat, not to the full capacity. But if it's in a tanker shuttle where there's porta tank set up, we can haul water all day. We don't need a pump for that. So only when it needs its pump is when it's working at 35 to 50% of its capacity.
Okay.
And also, just to make something clear, if the ESC recommends that we put this tanker in the lineup for 20 years from now, that's coming from the ESC at that point, and then that's what we'll do. Right now, it is in the lineup. You know, I just think we feel that in 15 years or 10 years or 20 years, however long this thing lasts, at that point, we need to do another explore, you know, or another study on, do we need 3 tankers in the township? And that all depends on public water and, you know.
Okay.
One more thing. So when a piece of equipment is up on the schedule, are these essentially the type of questions that are asked each time? Regardless, this is 2 years early. This one would have been on the list anyway. It's just 2 years early, right?
No,
So
Exact-
are these kind of
it's
questions
actually 8
asked? or
years
do we
late.
just- we just get it?
2016 is when it was due, and
I'm sorry.
2014. Okay, so it's been pushed since 2014.
Yeah.
But
At the
these are
fire
typically the
company's
type of
request.
questions.
Yeah, at the fire company's request. It was
Correct.
fixed there. Yeah.
We felt like it
Right.
was still running strong at that point,
Sure,
Right.
sure.
But the expectation was changing it in 2 years.
2024.
Right. So we're really there 2 years early. And my question is, are these the same type of questions and scrutiny that's given each time? Oh, do we really need this piece of equipment anymore? Do we, I think some of them are pretty understood. Their standards are a little bit different here with a tanker.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for me to respond as an observer, I would say when it's directly consistent with what's in the plan, in other words, a new piece is being purchased in accordance with the apparatus plan. It's not the same sort of questioning that's going on
I
here.
think that's probably done. I mean, the chiefs get together and they talk about it, right? When new pieces are discussed, and typically it'll become pretty well known throughout the
Yeah, I think
fire company.
when I was chief, we were getting together annually and deciding if that's the lineup we still want. I guess they're still doing that.
So that's where the scrutiny.
refurbishment
Yeah.
part of it and not being sure whether
Right.
it's still if it's gonna be replaced. And more unknowns here, I think, than what there's one of it. So, probably that's-
The idea that we're setting a precedent that has never been discussed before is what's, okay.
Appreciate that.
So if we were to hold the question, your proposal for the next meeting, while we allow the other fire companies to have some discussion, because whatever we do is going to impact all 4 fire companies equally. Would it be unfair to what your projections are and what you're trying to do at Whitmer and eventually affect the rest of the fire companies in the area because they depend on you for support as well? Could we extend it one more meeting so that the other 3 fire companies have a chance to get together and
That's up to you guys. I mean,
yeah,
I
but
think
how's it going to affect
you
you?
get
How
together
is that
every
going to
other
affect your
month, right?
planning?
You get together every other month, right?
Yes.
So we put it back.
This would be to July.
Possibly.
This would be to July. Is that even reasonable? Is that something that we would want to do? Or do we want to act on it now with everything that we currently know?
I guess I'm thinking out loud here, is I think it almost becomes a question of, we had 2 or 3 different options that Dave suggested.
Yep.
Township pay 100%. We're suggesting it be 60-40, stay on the 20-year schedule. I'm not sure, maybe a few other, I'm wondering, do we vote on something like that?
Do we have a motion?
Tonight, or whether
Yeah,
it's-
can we even make a motion tonight just based on this? Or do we wait and ask for the fire companies to go back to their leadership, their boards, and ask for their thoughts on how this may affect us downstream?
Jim, is your main concern precedent?
Going forward, my main concern is precedent. How's it going to affect this plan? We're going to have to redo the plan probably anyway, based on whatever we do with this one. Or if there are no more questions, I can call for a motion. And we can move forward, and then we can back up and say, all right, we'll change the plan now.
And if it were a recommendation to go forward Ralph and Tara, would be then to the supervisors to decide financially how this has to be broken.
Right, all of the apparatus replacements, have been presentations to the ESC. ESC makes a recommendation to the board, and the board then makes the final decision.
And this one has another wrinkle because it's beyond the plan in the budget.
Well, yeah, it's not budgeted for, so the board would have to,
That'll need extra action.
right, the board would need to amend the budget to provide whatever level of funding the board wants in response to the proposal.
May I ask, how long has it been running 50% or more below capacity?
Last summer is when we really became aware of a problem, when we were doing a major tanker show in East Lampeter Township. We sent it to Glicks and they actually put new piping in the one area, and we thought we had it fixed. And I don't know. Around last October is when we realized that it's much deeper than just plumbing. You know, we had found some of the plumbing was rusted through, and we replaced that, and then it didn't take care of the problem. So I'm going to say around last October is when we really started digging into it, thinking down the line of refurbishment.
Okay.
I thought of another question, which is a question I've asked at other ones when it's been a new piece, so I don't think it's
Go ahead.
different. Whitmer's first due in a portion of another township. And so you're their fire company in that portion of their township. Have you, or are you planning to ask that township for funding to assist in this purchase or refurbishment?
We have not, and we have not discussed it.
Okay. Well, if I have no other questions or discussions, I think I'm going to ask for a delay until next July's meeting. We'll make a decision on it. And I would like to ask the other three fire companies to come back with a recommendation. We'll discuss those recommendations at the next meeting. Unless there's somebody that's willing to make a recommendation at this point, we'll just table the discussion until the next meeting.
Ralph, can I ask a question? How long does the township vote take? Okay, so in July, we make the recommendation, whatever that may be, from that point forward. My only concern is the delay. Okay, we're delaying it 2 months, then it's got to go through the township process. So then we're back to potentially October again before we're contacting Glick. That's my only question.
Sure. The next board meeting after ESC's July meeting would be the first Monday in August. I think that actually might be August 1st. So that would be, typically that would be the time when this would be presented to the Board of Supervisors for action.
Okay, I have another question. Can you, if we were to go to refurb, can you replace the pump and then replace everything else a few months? Or is that like nickel and diming because you have to pull the pump? It's like pull the engine to replace this. You may as well just do it all at one time.
Yeah, so when the pump is out is when the time is, that's when the time is to do all this. You're talking about piping, you're talking about
Okay.
wiring. Yeah, and that's, it just makes sense to do everything at the same time.
Okay.
So to my previous question, when did Glicks tell you the earliest is that they can get it in? Okay, and they gave you did they give you a projection on that? From the time they were ordered? Okay,
That would be from the time that they get the go.
that they get the contract to do it.
I guess I have a question. I guess I'm wondering why the ESC can't handle this as a standalone. Doesn't have to necessarily change the whole process of the apparatus, since this is totally unique. This is a refurbishment. This isn't new. So why does this have to change the whole plan?
Because it sets a new precedence. It's something that we don't have it in. the
Only for
current-
refurbishment, not for new.
But it's also a budget.
I get the budget, but I don't get the picture of why it has to change the whole plan of new equipment. Because this is not new. It's a refurbishment, so shouldn't have to change anything on the new end of equipment.
Very true, but I believe that this won't be the last refurbishment discussion.
If I can make another suggestion, just to muddy things up a little more. If the only question that the members of the committee are uncertain of is the level of funding. And if everybody's comfortable with the idea of refurbishing this piece, you could take it in two steps that way and accept the idea of refurbishing to let them go forward to start that process, and then resolve the question of how much. That would depend upon if they're prepared to come up with at least 40%, I guess.
Hutch, we are. The 100% is a question for you guys. Since it's refurbishment, the question, I guess it probably didn't come across as a question. It came across as we're asking for you to do it. But it's a question, would you consider it because it's a refurbishment? We are prepared to pay the 40% if that's what the
That's
board
certainly-
decides.
That certainly changes my perspective a lot, because you actually said
I think it did-
100%.
I think it did
the fire
say
company.
in there that.
Yeah,
we asked-
absolutely.
Yeah.
That makes a major difference in my mind now.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah,
Well, since Verdenhan has already said their position, the other fire departments have a position that about, I think I heard.
I heard 100%. I heard 60-40. I didn't hear anything from Bronx. Okay. Okay.
If, I'll put it this way, if, and Chris, you know, there's a refurb maybe coming up down the road because it might be ours. And we're discussing that also. I think we're to the point where I don't have a problem refurbing the thing and getting it running and bringing it up to speed. I just cannot sit here and say for our fire company to say, yep, it's 60-40 or 80-20 or that. I just can't do that right now.
Okay. Thanks. All right, then we'll do it as Hutch has suggested. We'll take it in two steps. All right.
But I thought that we were supposed to bring an official action. Their official action is on the. That's how I heard the presentation. We're paying this recommendation.
The slide says it is a recommendation. Now what it says?
Only that's official. That it's to meet the same criteria that we might come to this organization. And for a new rate, whatever, however you work it, that's the way it is. I'm just asking.
It says the Tanker 6-2 recommendation. Request East Lampeter Township Emergency Service Committee recommend to East Lampeter Township Board of Supervisors that 100% So the refurbishment cost be covered by the apparatus fund. That's what it specifically says. So, but if you're willing to, if your fire company is willing to withdraw that recommendation at this time and just ask for approval of refurb pending East Lampeter Township Emergency Services Committee finalizing discussion on funding, we can go forward. Can we delay it and allow your guys that are back here to make a decision? Yeah, wait just a second.
Make a recommendation that we let the other stakeholders speak.
Sure. Okay. Go ahead. This is, yeah. Okay, Mr. Bono, tell us who you are and.
My name is Matt Bono. I
There
was
you go.
actually a founding member of this committee with several other members. So
Yes.
it's good to be back in the room. A couple of points. I think Whitmer would accept a minimum of 60% tonight to keep the process moving. The reason we asked for 100 is in a refurbishment situation, a tanker, and we said it in the presentation, this tanker, when it's refurbed, will do nothing. A brand new tanker will do nothing more than this piece. A tanker is a unique situation versus a pumper or a ladder truck where so many things change in the 20+ years over when you buy one, when you buy a new one. This piece here will still move water, will still pump water. And that's why when we were discussing it at our committee, we said there was no reason, when we were discussing it at the company, no reason to spend $582,000 when we can spend $197 to accomplish the exact same situation. So I think if you're trying to decide the percentage and to allow us to move forward by recommending to the supervisors, at least initially, do something like a minimum of 60%. Then we at least know we have the 60-40 split tonight. We can go back and make a decision whether we want to start ordering. Well, once the supervisors approve that, then we could go and start to order the parts and do that. And then if the committee takes into account the significant savings that the refurbishment does over a new, which we put the numbers up as well too. That's the only reason we asked for 100%, because we feel we are, even with doing the 100%, we're getting the same thing as a brand new one and saving the taxpayers a significant amount.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Over
So-
a new piece.
So now, having heard that from Whitmer, does that?
Are you on a public comment?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, Chris. Yeah.
But just to point of clarification, this actually makes the piece 40 or 38 years old. So, we have extended the life. So I understand what your concern is to get another 20 years out. But when you look at the original 20 plus this or the original 20 plus the extending of the years, 8 years, and then 10 additional years on it, it does make the piece out to be 38 years old. So that's one thing. And if there's flip-flop of apparatus, if another company is pushing off a piece in the next year or two, then that would allow us to slip into their slot and allow them to slip into ours if there's not finance available this year for it. So that's just a thought too. So it does extend out the life. I totally understand your concern with the 20 year or with the additional 20 years, but it is making the piece 40 years old. So over 40 years. So it has served 2 full new pieces.
Cycles.
2 cycles. 2 cycles.
It's an antique, yeah. Yeah.
And
25 years, it's an antique, right?
Jim, and
Okay.
to,
Yes.
to Chris's point, I had noted that, it's 38 years old and the new equipment's going to be 582,000. Where if you take the price of the tanker, what it was purchased at in 94 plus the 197, you're still at only 362,000. So there's still quite a bit of savings
Mhm. Yeah.
from a new apparatus.
All right. All right. Are there any other? I had it open to the public here. Is there any other? Okay. If not, Any other discussion from the members of the committee? Go ahead with your,
I'll make a motion that the ESC recommend to the supervisors that Whitmer can go ahead, do the refurbishment, and that the township will provide a minimum of 60% of funding. And I think, or even word it, the actual funding will be decided by a vote at the next. Well, our request, I guess, will be decided at the next ESC. Probably my word there. The percentage will be decided. The actual percentage will be requesting, whether it's 100% or only 60%, will be decided at the next ESC.
based on
Based on
input from the other
from the
four fire companies. Okay.
We will be asking.
Initially approved the 60%, go forward with the 60%. And then, okay. Okay, we need to get the words right. So,
So it is to approve an adjustment to the fire apparatus replacement program schedule, allowing for the refurbishment of tanker 62 with the understanding that that's the part we have to, because there is no change. That's the percentage that was in place already.
Yeah, the change would be the years. So instead of 2024, it's now 2022.
okay. All right, so read that again, Mike.
Yep.
That sounded pretty good.
Yep. To approve an adjustment to the fire apparatus replacement program schedule, allowing for the refurbishment of tanker 62 with the understanding that it's 2 years. Help me with the last sentence. Essentially 2 years earlier.
2 years, yeah. Schedule replacement is 2 years earlier than projected. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so we have a motion. Do I hear a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right. Thank you for your patience. I mean,
Thanks to all of you. We
yeah,
appreciate
yeah.
everything you do. So,
thanks for your presentation and thanks for your patience and all the information that you gave to us.
If you have any more questions, feel free to email them
All right.
to us, or we'll be glad to answer them.
Okay, so we'll take up the remaining issues at the next.
If I can, the next supervisory meeting is Monday, the 6th of June. So we put that on their agenda for similar presentation for them to act on
With
this.
the motion that was made tonight, that's the one you would be
Correct.
moving on,
Correct.
Yeah.
What was recommended tonight, yes.
All right. It's up.
Okay, thank you. All right. So now we'll move on to the next discussion. Then next discussion, we'll talk about the financial report review. You've always sent that. I don't know where I have it. Are there any corrections or changes to the financial report? Any questions to our financial report that was sent out? Do you have any comments about it?
Just this is the annual process. All the fire companies send their information in to us. Our finance director summarizes them in this format. And then it's provided to the committee for whatever review you want to give to it.
Okay. Are there any questions about it? Any comments? We don't need to approve it, do we? Hutch, there's no need for us to.
There's not really anything to approve. Just
It goes
if there
forward.
are questions for any of the fire companies.
Goes
that are
forward to the
raised.
supervisors and for their
Yeah, they'll see it
review.
the same as you. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Very good. Very good. Thank you. All right, the next agenda is one we've been working for a while. And I do understand that we do have some a couple of our fire companies have already started some of their HR planning. I'm going to continue that discussion a little bit here this evening. There are three things that we need to make sure that we have good agreement on, and then I've outlined again a proposal, and I sent that out to everyone and was hoping that I would get some comments back this evening on this proposal, understanding that this is a broad proposal that gives fire companies an idea of what has worked in some ways within this township. But since the major problem that we're facing with personnel is not unique throughout the township, there needs to be the focus of a individual effort at each of the fire companies to build their own program. Not saying that everything here is the right thing to do, not saying that everything here will work at every fire company. Saying here are some ideas, here is a starting point for you to start your discussions. Put a program together. It's building a business plan specific to trying to solve the personnel recruitment and retention. And of course, if we go back in history to how each one of our fire companies were formed and built, it was a community effort. We had community leaders that came together and they decided that there was an issue with fire safety was needed. And so they built it. And so in my mind, we need to think about ways to re-engage with our community. And it needs to be a planned program that has goals. So that's kind of the approach that I took when I put this together to try to get some focus and get our arms around the bigger problem that we all know we have, right? It's nothing that's, there's nothing magic about it. It's going to take work. It's going to take dedication. It's going to take each individual fire company taking the responsibility of engaging with their community to make it happen. Okay, so to that end, priority one is, of course, has been agreed to by this committee and by the supervisors, is to maintain the volunteer fire service in East Lampeter Township. And a program like this, this committee can only assist with the development and support of a robust community engagement program. We can't do it for you. Each fire company has to develop their own that fits their needs and their requirements. And then in order to start that process, each fire company needs to establish a finance and human resources committee that focuses on the community and coordinates with the community leaders. So I'd like to get good agreement on everyone, all four fire companies, that that's what you're going to do in trying to move forward to helping solve the shortage of personnel that we have and the sustainment of personnel that we have. I would say that I think that we've had some recent good success at a small level. Eric and Whitmer put together a program that has paid dividends. And I think that Lafayette has started some in that respect as well. And Eric's been working with some of Lafayette's people. I know that Ferdinand has a joint committee that they've been working with and trying to get the HR. And I think Ronks is working on finance committee at this point. Is that correct? Finance? You're not?
Jim, we read your email you sent out, and we, as a fire company, have done everything that's there. We've had our own finance committee for a few years now for as far as our future. We've redone our bylaws to change to meet up with everyday occurrences because things change constantly. I appreciate your email sent out, but it's not your job to tell us how to run the fire company.
And I'm not doing that.
Well,
Believe me, I'm not doing that. I'm saying that here are some things that have worked. And here
And-
are some suggestions. If you don't want to take the suggestions, then that's fine. You guys can go ahead and do your thing.
we have talked this for quite some time. And I think we've picked up something from everybody here as far as what works, what doesn't work, maybe, depending on your area. And we've talked out of these meetings about some of this. And we're constantly trying to change. And when somebody moves in our area, we're over knocking on their doors just to meet them.
Mhm.
Okay. When we have new businesses come in, we go over and we've intentionally, if they put new buildings up, asked them to put Knox boxes in, certain key things, and just to get discussion with those businesses. The old businesses and the new ones support us tremendously with money wise. They've done well. When we send, information out, we get it back. So, our areas again, and are so different from one end of this township to the other. And I understand that these are some things that you'd like to see, but, it's, as you said, I'm not going to sit here and promise you this and promise you that this is how we're going to do this. We've adjusted, we've done things, we're constantly adjusting. And this is one of our biggest discussion, but every group, and I'm not making excuses, but every group I've talked to, whether it's scouts, a baseball team, they can't get umpires. I wish there was one quick fix, and I don't know what that's ever going to be. So to sit here and say that you want us to comment on something that you have here.
Well, Steve, the problem that I have is that we've been bouncing this thing around from one rabbit hole to the next rabbit hole to the next rabbit hole.
Mhm.
And a couple meetings ago, we, as a group, collectively said that HR is the major problem within the township. No one has come up with a solution to the HR problem. My only point with this is to say there has been some success in developing community relations programs. If that's not what you want to do, there's no one that can force you to do anything. All we're saying is that we need to try to figure out a way to get our arms around the issue to help solve what everyone in the community has said is their number one problem. Just asking for, I need help, doesn't get anything done. Well, well, then, if none of this is helpful to anyone, then we'll stop the discussion and we'll move to the next rock that is in the way. If everyone thinks that they can solve their HR problems on their own without East Lampeter Township Emergency Service Committee comments, I mean, there's nothing that the committee can do. But I think that we have committee members that are willing to take a look at programs, processes, procedures that might be helpful. And I know that there have been people that have been working hard trying to figure it out and have looked at models from different places so that we maintain the volunteer force. We hear some comments from the committee.
Okay. So I read this. My first thought. Remember Donald Trump reading the State of the Union address? That lady in the back, what she did?
She tore it up.
And I put it down and I walked away.
Okay, that's fine.
And I came back, I reread it. And you know, we are already doing a lot of this stuff, as Steve said. Lafayette is a little more fortunate with their area than what Bronx is because we have businesses, we have schools, we have a lot of big businesses, the industrial park. You don't see that in Bronx's area. So their model is going to be different than what Lafayette's model is. Eric and myself, who is our ESC rep, we had a pretty good discussion the other night. And I got to say, I blistered him. But we came to an agreement. We're going to try some things. One of those things we tried was yesterday. No, it was Tuesday. I'm sorry. Tuesday during the voting. We put our yard signs up and down the driveway, just like the representatives do that are running for office. We were set up our community table with our Lafayette tablecloth on it. We were out there with applications and handouts saying this is what it means to be a volunteer fire company. And Susie, could you tell us how that engagement went?
Was about 25 no's, one yes. We learned about it.
So the other question I have is, I know that if you're involved in the fire service, I read journals, online stuff every day. I'm getting emails about, recruitment, retention. Like I said, it wasn't even a discussion 10 years ago. Well, it might have been at the ESC in the early, but it's gotten really bad. So when we talk about priority number one, which is to maintain the volunteer fire service in East Lampeter Township, how many of us in here follow the fire world? I mean, are in tune with journals, or do we know what's going on out there? What options are available? Do we know what other townships are doing? Other boroughs? How are they handling the situation in Lancaster County? Because we're not the only ones that have this problem. Can't be. So personally, I see your words here, Jim, but I don't think this is our way forward. I think that we need to do this stuff. We need to have that community engagement. We need to bring people out of the community who can engage for us and attempt to find us volunteers. Yes. But do I think this is our way forward? No.
Okay, that's fine.
With that said, I think that we should bring in, and let me stop there a minute. We said we were going to treat this from bottom up, not top down. Everybody did agree on that. So this was a little top down for me because it came in your words and it didn't come from this group. We talked about having small committees that get together. I didn't see any of that happen yet. We haven't really talked. We're good about complaining about the problem. We're really good at that.
We are.
But we haven't really come up with any solutions like, hey, can the township put out a full page in their newsletter or send a special notice? Nobody's come up with anything like that, have they? Have we had other areas? Does everybody know what Wesco is? Who knows what Wesco is? Wesco, Warwick Emergency Services Commission. Okay, they have a plan that they're moving forward with. We know what Manham Township is. Okay, we know how their plan's going. How about Hempfield, East Hempfield Township? Does anyone know about their plan? How about Garden Spot Fire and Rescue?
Yeah,
They've consolidated three
Consolidated,
companies
yeah.
down there. And, I'd be interested in hearing their path. Why did they do that? And how did that path go? I would like to have those people from Wesco come in here and tell us their story. I would like to hear from other municipalities, and maybe Hutch is privileged to this information, but how do they handle their emergency services? Because I don't know. I mean, I can look at their budgets and see how much they're contributing to their fire companies. But I can tell you, East Hempfield has the same struggles with volunteers as we do. So does Warwick Emergency Services. I guess, I'm thinking. I want to hear from other people. How are others handling it? I didn't see anything in your paper here which takes a burden off the volunteers. I can tell you that out of the 60 some members that are on the roster that we turn into the township every periodically, out of those 60 some members that we have, 40 of them barely do the minimum, and the other 20 are not the kind of caliber that are going to go out there and shake hands and say, come join us. I'm sorry, but we got a lot of people who they stay in bed at night and they work during the day.
Well,
So, I think that we need to work towards a common goal here, and I'm not 100% convinced that this is going to be our answer.
and I'm not telling you that this is the answer either. I haven't heard anybody suggest anything that says this is the direction that really want to start the process with X, Y, and Z and move in that direction. These same discussions that we're having right now is what we've always had. And it hasn't amounted to hill of beans. We haven't gotten anywhere. And that's part of my frustration is trying to get our arms around things, is that no one's giving any ideas. Now, I can appoint a committee tonight if you want me to. But we need to give them goals.
But
And what is that committee? What is the goal of that committee then? To come back with suggestions on how each one of the fire companies is going to develop their plan. We don't want to tell you how to do your business if you don't want us to tell you you're running your own business, right?
okay.
And you
so-
don't want to have the government telling you how to run your business.
So if I had to do something today, I would want 100% apparatus funding. I would want the township to pay all my bills. I would want to hire two part-timers or 3 part-timers to run fire calls in the daytime. But I don't have the funds to do all that. So that means I need funds coming from another source in order for Lafayette, because it's not Bird Hand's problem. They have plenty of people from what I understand. I don't have the funds to hire part-timers. But how can I make up those funds elsewhere so that I can? And that's why I brought up 100% apparatus funding. That might give us some funds that we could put towards that. Other areas, equipment allowances. I know that the fuel costs are going up and the township graciously pays for our fuel. They pay for our workman's comp insurance. They do a lot for us. But compared to other areas, I'm not 100%. Now, that's why I'd like to hear these other stories, because something led these other people to consolidate. Look what's going on in Paradise Township right now. I mean, something's leading them to consolidate. Not saying that we want to be like it, because I don't think we'll all agree to do that. All right, but
Yeah.
yeah,
All right, well.
you know, we're all here for a
Whitmer-
common goal, and we all share
Yeah.
the same thing. We're all here to work and put out, take care of East Lampeter Township. All right. You know, staffing and finding the funding. You know, it's too bad it all comes back to the money. I have an article here that was posted by the Wesco. It was in the newspaper. It was their report. And this is under the Emergency Services Report. Fire Commissioner Dwayne Ober, Warwick Emergency Services, reported the company has 42 volunteers. 25 firefighters respond to at least 10% of the calls. Average turnout time is 5 minutes or less. They arrive on the scene within 8 minutes. It does give an ambulance response time here, but it says that the volunteers, they receive incentives. They receive a $200 tax credit. And Liddittsboro pays paid $1,600 to 8 volunteers for that tax credit. They also receive gift cards from local businesses for firefighters who make their eligible training. $450 in gift cards.
Okay, so let me interrupt you a second. So what do you expect this committee to do for you then?
Well, I think we need to talk about incentives, and I think we need to talk about funding. I think we need to talk about the plan
Well, we
forward.
decided we weren't going to talk about funding. We said funding was not the primary issue. We said personnel was the primary issue.
Personnel is, but it goes hand in hand. Jim.
And
It goes hand in hand.
so,
I wouldn't burden anyone in here with the personnel problem if I had the funds to be able to afford personnel myself. And we already know that going out into the community isn't working. Maybe it works in Bird in Hand. But it's not working in Lafayette. You know, when we had our chicken barbecue a few weeks ago, we went back into the neighborhood that's behind the firehouse, South Ridge, and we tried to drum up support for people to come and help. No one, zero support. So I guess we didn't try hard. We didn't try hard
had
enough.
some luck with that.
We didn't try hard enough, I guess. And, you know, or either that or else we sent the wrong message, or maybe we came across wrong. We were too hard on the people, or too strong. I don't know what the reason is that they didn't come forward, but to say we need to try harder next time.
Well, I certainly don't have all the answers, and I wish I did, but I'm looking for someone in this committee to step up and say, gee, that's the wrong approach. This is the approach we should take, other than begging for more help from the township, because our mission statement says that we are going to push our volunteer system.
So let me ask you
So
this.
do
Do
we
you know what a
change- do we
combination
change
fire
that?
department is? Do you know what a combination is? Go ahead.
But I think you're not looking at, you're looking at this as I'm trying to dictate something, and I'm not trying to dictate anything. I'm trying to say, look, there are models out there. Maybe there are other models that we can find that aren't even close to these models that we can look at. And somebody needs to suggest them. We know there are two that are working. One's the consolidation that works throughout, you know, we've got, but do we want to do that? Do we want to talk about the consolidation? Or do we want to talk about ways that each of us can affect whatever, or help and assist each of the fire companies in this township to sustain and grow? Well, should we put a committee together? That,
I think this is the committee.
I think it is too. It needs more input. Paul?
just feel like there's a huge gulf between where some of the car companies want to go and where other car companies want to go. I feel like I'm not sure what I can really contribute other than to say that. So I guess what I don't quite understand is if in fact we're trying to maintain volunteer service, I think it's very clear in my mind that when we go to a 100% funding model, it is about the 100%, that's what it is. That is clearly, that's going down the road to a pay parachutes. I don't see any other, I mean, I think that's just fine. You heard Hutch ask the question, asked representing the township tonight, asking Chris, some pretty pointed questions. I can assure you that if we go to a 100% apparatus model, and then we start doing some of the things that Dave's suggesting, we might as well just wrap it up and turn it over to the township and say, in a constructive manner, but we may as well just move to the, because that's where this is headed. I guess that's what I don't understand. What am I missing? When I see that, I go, and so when I look at that, and then I look at what we've done, and I get it's different. I understand that. But there's, I guess I'm trying to put myself in the shoes, and I get the frustration of saying it's not working and hearing that loud and clear. At the same time, I'm hoping he's going to put himself in our shoes too and go, I guess the question is, I don't know what we can possibly say for the end of this thing. We feel like what we're doing is working. We really don't want to go the paid route because, again, that's what the volunteers are. And I know for our company, when that happens, if that happens, our community is there to support us because we need that thing. And it becomes a paid car service. And it won't take long to see those steps. Because again, we've seen it in our county. Exhibit A, and I know we can argue that, well, maybe they did it, we do it different. All the bottom line is, it's really, for me, it's as simple as either each car company's gonna have to figure out a way to make it work themselves, with hopefully the help and encouragement, ideas, and all that, which again, hopefully the ESC wants to share these ideas. But each company's gonna have to figure out a way to make it work. And if they can't make it work, again, to me, there's just so many problems. I mean, one is, it begs the question of, if each company can't make it work, do we need 4 companies in this country? Because when we go to a paid fire service, I can't speak for the supervisors, but I'm not an idiot. I think it's pretty clear there's not going to be 4 township fire companies in this country if that happens. So I would love nothing more than to have a solution that answers solve Dave's problems and some of the other problems that would also stay within what the whole purpose of the ESC is. Again, the stated purpose is to maintain volunteer fire service in the township. But honestly, sitting here, I really don't see a bridge between, I don't see something that if we go that route where we can start more township funding. Honestly, I think we're at the point already where the township is providing enough funding that if we go any further, and I've made this point before, but I think we're already close to that red line where more township funding means paid car service. That's where we're headed. And again, and we in Birmingham, we don't want to cross that line. What I'm hearing is that other companies do want to cross that line. So it's very hard. I'm not sure how to reconcile that. And if it's not, if they're saying they don't want to cross that line, then to me, that is, they're not asking for more funding. And the question is, okay, and again, I would love to hear the idea that would solve this problem without asking for more funding. I'm waiting on, I think Jim is too, we're waiting on these ideas. What are those ideas? When we suggest ideas that work for us, again, we're told, well, they won't work for other companies. And that may very well be true, but that leaves us with, okay, what will work for you? And if nothing will work other than more township funding, again, it puts us in a position where, well, we have no other choice but to be against that, or basically throw away everything that we built. I mean,
No,
so-
it's not like that. And you know what, in the evolution of the fire service, someday it's going to be paid. So we need to pump the brakes. All right. So yes, we will make every effort to get our volunteers in here. And believe me, I do want to stay volunteer at Lafayette. Absolutely. But in the daytime, you know, we also need to provide a service. And as Jason said many a times, 2 70-year-olds or 1 40-year-old getting on the fire truck is not really providing that service.
Yeah, and again, I hear that. But
So-
what I want to hear is the solution. that
So that-
doesn't
right.
involve-
So there are some brainstorming solutions. One is more funding and higher pay. Part-time
Again,
paid
that's-
guys. That's still a volunteer fire company because those guys are only in the daytime.
I mean, you-
Okay, there's
Fine,
another
fine.
brainstorm solution out there, which is to staff an engine at the township building in the daytime, 7 to 3. Okay, and they run all calls township wide. None of the other companies need to have their guys leave from work unless they want to, because they would supplement this 3 daytime guys. But then again, that's all for discussion. We got 5 minutes left here in this meeting.
Again, that still requires more township funding, just to be clear.
It sure does.
Exactly. But.
And I don't think the fire service is going to get any cheaper going into the future.
So
Well,
again, what
all
I'm
right.
hearing, and again, I think really the opposition, what I'm hearing is the only solution is more township funding, which takes us, I think, away from the PES's mission, which is to remain volunteer fire service. The other thing we haven't discussed at all is, okay, what about the possibility of having that fully staffed engine, but doing it in a volunteer manner? Can we pull resources from the work companies and do a duty crew type of thing where we've got volunteers? Now, again, I'm looking to exhaust.
It's
every
an option.
possibility that we can exhaust before we turn down the road, because there's a point of no return here where, again, it's over. And I do know for a fact, I think I can say this pretty strongly, that when that happens, the success that you are seeing in some companies is going to evaporate pretty quickly, because for the same reason that happens in Manheim Township, as an example, when you start running paid people next to volunteer people, I mean, it doesn't, again, it doesn't.
I know the
it's not that
story,
hard to
but
put those
All right.
pieces together.
We need to fix it here in East Lampere.
I've heard that a lot of times, and I've yet to see it work really well, but, so I don't know where that leads us. But I think we're in bad there, and I'm not sure how we, and I appreciate Jim's work in trying to do this. It's a thankless job, and I appreciate the fact that everybody that's here is, I think, wants a good outcome. And believe me, I certainly am not questioning anybody's motives, or I think everybody's similar, like I said, we're trying to do something that's extremely difficult. But I don't know how we get from here to there. I'm not sure where we're going.
Whitmer? Any comments?
Yeah, we're working over down through the list with the PR team. A lot of the stuff we're doing. I agree with Dave. When I first saw it, I was kind of like, wow, holy crap. But yeah, we're working through it here. We'll have more to report the next meeting on it.
Okay.
Might we dedicate an item on the agenda each time that we're here to talk about the hard ideas, not the concepts? Closest that we've come to that in my short time here has been when we had the meeting at Conestoga Valley and you were reporting on your departments, and there were some specific ideas that were coming out. And because you guys have the connections, it would seem to me, volunteer fire associations, obviously doing reading on it, you have the expertise, you've been doing it a long time, many of you. You could bring those ideas here, you're saying them out loud, say, here it is, that can drive you to a direction. Because otherwise, that type of brainstorming is the word I was thinking, and you had used that. You need to hear the hard ideas. What are they that are working? Some of them are tougher ideas, and if the idea is to maintain the volunteer fire department, I think you almost keep that paid piece at the very extreme, because as soon as you pay somebody's thinking it's not volunteer anymore. But and there are a lot of other things that are there, but to know what Warwick's doing, and Elanco and so forth, There are some great ideas there. Not saying you guys haven't heard them either, but is that what we should be talking about here and see where that drives us? Some of those are going to be, I think, embedded in what Jim has tried to put together in terms of maybe what the township could do a bit more. I think we do a great newsletter. I was talking to Hutch about that the other day. And maybe there is a time to get the public more informed. I'm one of those, I know about our community members, but, you know, even working at the high school, you know, you're privy to what our fire departments are doing, but the average person doesn't see it. I happen to run across this at work, and this is a newsletter, and, you know, it's always nice. There's all of the equipment of a fireman, and they have it all set up there, and they sent that out, and it gives the community person a real, like, wow, I didn't know it cost that much to have. And it's right there in your face. And maybe we could do more in a newsletter and say, hey, this is the annual one where we dedicate to the fire department. I personally think I'd like to see it for the police department. There's lots of things you do that we don't know about. There's a lot of calls that the average person does not realize you guys are doing. And that can also be moving toward, I mean, the big one here is the personnel issue. I mean, obviously, making sure you have enough volunteers, but you got to start talking about real hard ideas, or then it is this same, you know, we're admiring our complaints, but we're not getting a specific action that might be, hey, well, that doesn't work for Birdenhand, but it might work for Lafayette. I'm surprised Southridge Farms are the people that, you know, hundreds of homes back there that, you know, is there something that can be done? I heard someone else talking about there's consultant companies now that are going around helping these volunteer fire companies say, we'll come in, you got to pay them, but they'll come in and get you these, we'll like a salesperson, they come in, we'll get you this many prospects or something like that. You know, is that something we should spend some time talking about in this committee? That is the avenue to share.
Before Garden Spot did their consolidation, they had a marketing person that they paid to go out into the community. I think he spent about 2 years there.
Jim,
Okay,
if I can, quick.
sure.
I've heard, I've been here since the ESC's been here and longer. And I've heard all this stuff go around, and I've never heard sort of what I consider to be the other side of this question. How do we reduce the demands that are put on the volunteers now? So I'd like to suggest that a goal be put forward to reduce the number of calls that the fire companies have to respond to by 5% a year. And we figure out a way to do that.
I don't think reduction in service is the answer. Honestly, the community expects that.
We've never talked about it.
That's correct. We've never talked about
And
it.
I think this group should talk about that. That if you reduce those demands, obviously that doesn't get you more people, but it puts less strain on the people that you do have. So it's sort of the other side of that question. And I don't think it should be something that's off limits from discussion.
Okay. So we haven't solved anything. I didn't expect that we'd solve anything tonight. I was hoping that we'd have some decent discussion that would get us a direction. The one thing that Mike and I did meet, and Mike alluded to it, was having township help with a newsletter of some sort. And we kind of agreed that it would require at least one person from every fire company to dedicate their time to that, but have to have somebody from township lead that and pick one subject and address that one subject only in that newsletter. And let the community better understand, hopefully, what some of our issues are. I don't know, but I'll say this, that I'm pretty sure that most of the people in our community don't really understand us as a fire service. And I believe that that is the one, I personally believe that that is the one major thing that we, as a fire service, volunteer fire service, need to get across to our community, what we are and who we are. And then we need to understand what our community expects from us. But I don't think we really understand what our community is thinking about us.
Have billboards. Have video. What is it? Guys.
Mhm.
Different roles. Touch every area is different. And what people address in that area than other. I'm aware for safer firehouse. You have more, you have farmers, and all that stuff. And better. The fire company, so areas. We're struggling. I know there are hospitals. Part of it's not there. Part-time drivers. Now, so volunteer. You're gonna see the fire service really change a lot. Let's talk about emergency management. They're struggling too, and
Sure.
They're going together. But you know, they're paying for drivers and stuff. Because they need to have a driver. You know, some people can drive the apparatus. They gotta have a driver.
Sure. Okay. All right, I think I want to stop this discussion because we've got some other business that we have to take care of. I don't know where we go forward here with this. I certainly maybe could ask that rather than me sending an email out to everybody and saying, here's my thoughts, why don't you guys send me some ideas and say, hey, pick this and tell me how we can attack this. And then we'll discuss that item. All right. Okay, so we'll end that discussion at this point. We'll re-engage again at the next meeting and see if we can't get some direction that helps everybody. Okay. All right, so I need to poll the fire companies at this point. New business, is there any new, or before that poll the fire companies, is there any new business that needs to come before the committee? If not, we'll poll the fire companies. Bird in hand.
Yeah, so, a couple things. We have a barbecue coming up here next weekend. Saturday of Memorial Weekend. It's normal for us. And another thing quick was, I just wanted to follow up on the email that I sent out about the funds, I forget what they're, the American Recovery, ARPA funds or whatever. I'm guessing there's probably no funds forthcoming there. I think based on the email response I got, but I did want to just follow up and make sure we are planning on buying some radios. Can you give us any color there in terms of where that stands? Is there any chance, I guess, that there'll be any funding forthcoming from the township on that, or what's the next step there, I guess?
In the discussion with the board that we had about ARPA funding, they wanted to have decisions made as part of the 2023 budget process. So
we wouldn't know for sure until. And my next question is going to be directed to Dave about possibly county funding, but it sounds like we have something.
Great. We can update the word, Brett. So I took it as, after reading that email, the township, it's really not any funding out of the township. They are. So we did. County team, and I applied for that. Lo and behold, the county was given $106 million, and they have spent some, but there is $89 million. I was in West for any of those $89. First question I got back was, she works for your municipality. I said that I've already done that avenue and it's fun programs too. They said, okay, we'd like to see it in a larger scale. Not comfortable. We'd like to see it come from one of the county organizations, like the Firemen's Association, like the County Chiefs Association, like the County Police Association. Because I had in my application that there were more agencies than just Lafayette that were interested. There's a bigger picture, sheriff's office, police departments, the public works, for the funds. And that the best policy would be in everyone's best interest to have the largest bulk price. I took that to Lancaster County Fire Chiefs Association. I also sent Chief Service email. Yes, we can take that to the Lancaster County Police Association so that they could turn that into the county EMA. So what became of that was Lancaster County Fire Chiefs Association, what they call their executive board, they met, discussed the proposal, and they sent out to all the fire companies in the county a survey. It's not only for radios. And 5 things to choose from and an area for comments of what we think that you would like to have funding for and they would apply for. So number 1 was radios. Number 2 was firefighter PPE, or personal protective equipment. I can't remember what the 3rd, 4th items on the list were. But, that feedback is going to the Lancaster County Fire Chiefs Association. I'm sure Steve got that survey. Donnie got the survey. So there were questions about the more radios. Donnie, if you filled that out for more radios, yes, you're in there too. So whatever the percentages of those 5 items are that were on the survey will go to the Lancaster County EMA. I can't remember his name right now, but he will spearhead that back to the commission.
Thanks for doing that. Definitely appreciate that. We'll definitely follow up. Do you have any feel for what the timeline on that might be, or what the next idea?
Bob Devonshire, he sits on that board, and he reached out to me personally with what the commissioners were after.
I think that's all I have, and that's done. Do you have anything on?
Bring it up now. Ralph, just had a question for you. Pear Lakes Township did send out, Pear Lakes Fire Company sent out that they do now carry insurance. So I'd like to know East Lampeter Township stance on adding them back to our resource list. They are
in most of our area, side of East Lake here, they are our second rescue. Put that resource back on, if at all possible.
They do not have workers' comp. I already contacted them. They have regular insurance. They have no workers' comp yet. It's held up in Harrisburg with L&I right now.
They will have.
They have no clue when and if. And they're supposed to pull all their paperwork together because they got a letter stating that their township said they can run mutual aid, but they're still not being used in Paradise Township. So it's a kind of a gray area yet, that just for what it's worth.
Okay. Bernie has done. Steve, Bronx?
We have three things I'd like to bring up real quick. First off, we just redid our box alarms. They are into county. We do not have them inputted yet because Brett is no longer part of that, but we're like third or fourth in line. And some of that pertain to with Paradise not in service anymore. We did some looking and we're not double pulling daytime for things. That way we feel better that we get the equipment we need. And we went from 7 boxes down to 3. We went with an east, a west, and a central. And it just made things a whole lot easier, a whole lot cleaner, and they could be followed a whole lot better. And we are bringing what we need. We're still getting 10,000 gallons of water first alarm, and we're still using everyone in the township like we always did. And I've had some conversation. I did talk to Dave about an engine doing some things for us. So when that happens, I will send an email out when that goes into effect. But right now they couldn't tell me exactly when that would happen. I did want to bring up that we were invited up to Rockvale, the shops of Rockvale. We were up there the other Saturday. I had 8 of our people. They were there all day. It was their first Saturday, their Maker's Mart. And we had some businesses donate food to us that we gave out. While other people were trying to sell food, we were giving it out. But it was a gimmick to get people over to talk to us. We had a contest that people were entering, and we talked to people. We had tools in. The unfortunate part about it, it rained that whole day. That was the day that it rained the whole day, and it made things not as pleasant. But we talked to people. We got the kids over that brought the parents over with us and that. You know, you go to stuff like that. The unfortunate part is a lot of them don't live in your area. Some did. I think out of, there was 37 people that we had direct contact with, and we have got 1 person that's interested in helping us, not firefighter side, but administrative, doing things like that. So it is a challenge, but we tried. And we're going to keep, trying to do stuff like that. But it is a challenge, believe me. Susie, I feel for you with your election thing. We were going to do that this year and decided it wasn't going to work for us too well. So the other thing that I do want to bring up, and this, we are going to do a capital purchase. We are adding a Amicus battery-powered combination tool for on our squad. That is for off-road rescue. We are setting it up that we've been out in fields lately with some of our assist companies with fire and with the farm rescue thing. So it's one tool. It's not going to be, everything, but it's going to help us quite a bit. So because it is over the threshold of 7,500, I'm not going to bring that up here tonight, but it will help us with our squad in bad weather too, because of being 4-wheel drive to get that out. But it'll be a good piece for us, and it's battery tools are the way to go. So
Steve, I'm sorry, what was that again? What is the piece?
it is a battery powered, uses DeWalt batteries. Ours uses DeWalt. It's a combination tool. It'll cut and spread. It has removable tips. It can be used to any type of rescue, but we're setting it up for the off-road rescue type things with farms and things like that. So that is everything.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Okay, first on the list here is our insurance company, Bob Longley. I think most of us have that insurance. He had asked if he could speak with Ralph Hutchison. Concerns about the workman's comp insurance. I know I got a long email with some attachments in it, and he's concerned, and he just would like to have a discussion with you, Ralph, if you're okay with that.
My phone rings.
Okay. I think Chris from 62, he had approached me on that also to make sure it was brought up this evening. So I will point him in your direction. Chicken barbecue, we had April the 16th, I'm sorry. April 16th, probably our worst chicken barbecue we've ever had. There were a lot of chicken from somebody from the community who stepped up to purchase them at cost, but we also gave a lot away. And we're going to review whether we're going to have a chicken barbecue going forward or not. The poorest turn. Just for all the fire companies, there are some hydrant markers. Hutch and the township have provided. They are in the festival. 4 boxes of hydrant markers to share those. I gave the update on the radios. I was contacted by Fox 43. I told them I could not do that, to contact the township if they needed anything. And we also revised our box alarms. We did that last month, and we're actually using one of the options that not many people are using in the CAD system at the county, and that's the difference between a day and night time response. So we beefed up our daytime responses to try and cover the lack of volunteers, but that's from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we've also created what we call an industrial box. So any of the industrial area is actually a dual response with Whitmer and Lafayette both responding. I did get a call from High Associates. They wanted to do some training in the daytime, confined space training, which takes a lot of people to do. And I told them that we cannot do that because we are short-staffed. They wanted to know what would happen if there was a call, a fire at their business. And I explained to them the industrial box where you will always get 2 companies. And I said, if it's anything of significance, you will get a much larger response. So that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Whitmer, please.
Yeah, April's Oxford was a pretty good success. We sold 2,778 meals. Let's see here. We have blood drive every 8 weeks at our firehouse. The next one is going to be July 7th. And Penn Medicine has told us they picked us for Farm Safety Days for a date to be determined in February 2023. Also, the PR team is going to be out doing a couple meet and greets in some local neighborhoods. They'll have some food games, giveaways, obstacle courses set up, and some educational materials. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Emergency service.
I spent
my reports for March and April. Hurricane season starts next month. The other thing is COVID is on the rampant again. Healthcare facilities are starting to see an increase in patients. Also, the nursing homes. It's not everything that goes, so we'll make sure we practice.
The other thing is, I gotta ask this. Does township have a directory of officials?
Township officials? Yeah.
The reason why I'm asking was somebody called the township. Yes, for purchase that or your person says we don't have. So look at the website, see if there's anybody listed on the website. Not on this website. The school district, they went to get a hold of emergency management because they have who's emergency management coordinator. How I found out of this info was Lancaster County Emergency Management. It said that contact the township. The township says there's no emergency management coordinator.
We do have some relatively new staff, so depending upon who they talk to, it could have been a mistake that was
Yeah,
made.
I was just a little shocked. Is there some way or another, a lot of municipalities, they have, work with their webpage, emergency management, what they do, as well as how to contact them. There's a lot of townships that have that listed for emergency management. What can you do there? So somebody needs to get a hold of me. And have email and that stuff. Like I said, send me something. Yeah, I was just shocked that they had some questions that. No.
Apparently, whoever they talked with didn't ask or just made a mistake. We've got everybody on our list, including you and the deputy.
I looked, and I started looking on the website. I just didn't listen at all. It's not on the website.
Yeah, I don't think we have the director in the website per se, the directory in the website. But we do
Somehow.
We can- we know where to find it. We know where to find it. We'll get it. We'll get it.
Drop that box or something. For the first contact.
We'll take, I'm not a web designer, so I can't answer that question, but
I'll send you there or something. All right. Yeah, because it kind of shocked me, and it was county called me, what's wrong with the township? I was down.
Okay.
we know you exist.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope I'm still alive.
Okay. All right.
So we got it cleared up. So other than that,
Good.
everybody have.
Thanks. Township? Tara? You have anything?
I would just mention that the Walnut Street Extension Project had bids submitted today. So we're expecting that project will be awarded in the coming weeks and that construction will start to happen sometime this summer.
Does that affect any of our response?
There will be a brief period of time when Mill Cross Road will be closed for setting the bridge beams at that location, but we'll make sure everybody's aware of that well in advance. Other than that, unless there's a call on the construction site, which could happen, I don't know of any other impact. The township's annual paving projects are slated to begin early in June. We'll certainly communicate with everybody about locations and timing as we get the specific schedule put together. I think those are the main things I wanted to convey.
Okay. Very good. All right. We have citizens' comments. Claire, you have any? You're all good? Any comments? Okay, we'll open it up to the public comments at this point. Any public comments? If not, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
I'll second it.
Thank you.